Your time and emotional energy are your most valuable assets. Yet, many people spend years trying to fix relationships that were fundamentally broken from the start. The warning signs are usually there early on, embedded in the very words a partner chooses to use. There is a massive difference between a man who is simply a poor communicator and a man who is actively using language to manipulate you. Certain phrases are specifically designed to make you question your worth and accept unacceptable behavior. We are going to analyze 5 specific sentences that reveal a severe lack of emotional maturity and respect. Learning these patterns will save you from years of unnecessary heartbreak. If a man says these 5 things to you, walk away immediately. 1. You are overreacting, or its close relative, you are making a big deal out of nothing. Picture a very common scenario. You bring up a situation that genuinely hurt your feelings or made you uncomfortable. Perhaps he made a disrespectful comment in front of others, ignored a prior agreement, or crossed a line you previously established. You approach the conversation with the intention of resolving a conflict. You are looking for understanding, communication, and connection. Instead of addressing the issue at hand, he hits you with this phrase. To the untrained ear, it might sound like a simple difference in perspective. However, from a psychological standpoint, this is a textbook example of emotional invalidation and the foundational step of gaslighting. When a man tells you that you are overreacting, he is not making a genuine, helpful assessment of your emotional state. He is actively attempting to rewrite reality. By using this phrase, he masterfully shifts the spotlight away from his questionable behavior and shines it directly onto your reaction. In an instant, the narrative completely changes. The core issue is no longer what he did to upset you. The new issue is that your emotional response is supposedly flawed, excessive, or irrational. This is a highly effective defense mechanism for someone who refuses to take accountability. Admitting fault requires empathy, emotional maturity, and a willingness to change. Dismissing your feelings, on the other hand, requires zero effort and conveniently absolves him of all responsibility. He is essentially testing the waters to see if you will abandon your own emotional intelligence to accommodate his comfort. He wants to know if you will shrink your feelings to make his life easier. The long-term damage of this specific manipulation tactic is profound. If you stay in a dynamic where your reality is constantly minimized, a dangerous psychological shift occurs. You begin to experience a severe erosion of self-trust. You stop trusting your gut instincts. The next time you feel hurt, instead of communicating it, you will pause and analyze yourself. You will start asking yourself if you are actually being too sensitive or if you are the one creating the problem. Eventually, you will start to walk on eggshells. You will constantly censor your thoughts and monitor your tone just to avoid being labeled as dramatic or crazy. This state of perpetual self-doubt is exactly where a manipulative individual wants you. They want you disconnected from your internal guidance system because your intuition is your strongest shield against toxic behavior. Once you lose faith in your own perception of reality, you become entirely dependent on his version of the truth. You become infinitely easier to control. It is vital to contrast this with the behavior of an emotionally mature and secure man. A healthy partner does not view your emotional expression as an inconvenience or an attack. Even if he does not entirely agree with your perspective or initially understand why something upsets you, he respects your reality. His immediate response is curiosity and validation, not defensive dismissal. He will ask questions to understand your point of view because your emotional safety genuinely matters to him. He recognizes that emotional depth is a valuable human trait to be honored, not a flaw that needs to be fixed. When a man consistently labels your valid concerns as an overreaction, he is sending a very clear message. He is telling you that his ego and his convenience will always take precedence over your well-being. He is showing you that there is no room in the relationship for your authentic self. When you hear this phrase used to shut down a valid conversation, recognize it for the manipulation tactic it is, and walk away. 2. I am just keeping it real, or its equally toxic variation, no offense, but. Consider a scenario where you are sharing something important to you. You might be expressing excitement about a new personal goal, wearing an outfit you feel confident in, or discussing a topic you are passionate about. Instead of offering support or constructive feedback, he delivers a cutting, dismissive, or highly critical remark that immediately deflates your joy. When you express that his words were hurtful, he does not apologize. Instead, he immediately falls back on this phrase, acting as though he has done you a profound favor by delivering a harsh truth. This is a highly calculated manipulation tactic that weaponizes the concept of honesty. In modern society, we are conditioned to value honesty above almost all other relational traits. We are taught that a good partner must be completely transparent. Manipulators understand this cultural norm and exploit it masterfully. They use the concept of truthfulness as a shield to deflect from their own cruelty and lack of tact. By claiming they are just keeping it real, they attempt to reframe their abusive behavior as a virtue. In their twisted narrative, they position themselves as the brave truth-teller, while simultaneously positioning you as a weak, overly sensitive individual who simply cannot handle reality. This completely reverses the roles of offender and victim. This dynamic creates a dangerous psychological trap. It forces you into a corner where you feel obligated to accept disrespect under the guise of transparency. A man operating this way will systematically target the things that matter most to you. He might make passive-aggressive comments about your physical appearance, belittle your intelligence, mock your ambitions, or criticize your closest friends. Each time he chips away at your confidence, he hides behind the ironclad excuse of honesty. Over time, this systematic breakdown of your self-esteem creates intense cognitive dissonance. Your intuition tells you that you are being verbally attacked, but your conditioning tells you that you should appreciate his candor. This internal conflict is exhausting. You start to believe that true love requires accepting harsh criticism and that asking for basic kindness makes you needy, fragile, or demanding. You begin to accept a standard of treatment that is fundamentally disrespectful. It is crucial to establish the definitive boundary between authentic honesty and emotional abuse. Real honesty in a healthy relationship is always rooted in love, care, and a genuine desire for your overall well-being. It is delivered with deep compassion, empathy, and careful consideration for timing and context. If a difficult conversation needs to happen, an emotionally safe partner approaches it as a collaborative effort to strengthen the bond. The goal is mutual growth, not personal destruction. When a man consistently uses honesty as a free pass to be cruel, he is revealing a fundamental lack of empathy. He is demonstrating that he enjoys the power dynamic of making you feel small. He is showing you that he is more interested in asserting dominance and inflicting emotional pain than in fostering genuine intimacy. True honesty without compassion is not honesty at all. It is simply cruelty wearing a mask of virtue. A partner who truly values you will inherently want to build you up. He will strive to be your biggest protector, not your harshest critic. If you find yourself constantly bruised by a man who claims he is just telling it like it is, you must understand that you are not dealing with an honest man. You are dealing with a manipulator who uses truth as a weapon to control you. You deserve both honesty and kindness, and you should never be forced to sacrifice one to receive the other. When you recognize this pattern of weaponized truth, walk away immediately. 3. You are too demanding, or its equally manipulative counterpart, you are being controlling. Imagine a highly common situation where you calmly express a fundamental need within the relationship. You might ask him to communicate when he is going to be exceptionally late, express your discomfort with the disrespectful tone he used during an argument, or request dedicated time together without the constant distraction of cell phones. These are basic standards of interpersonal respect. However, instead of acknowledging your request or engaging in a productive conversation, he immediately becomes defensive. He turns the tables and accuses you of trying to control him. He labels your normal standards as unreasonable demands. This phrase is a powerful and destructive form of psychological manipulation. It is meticulously designed to blur the line between a healthy boundary and toxic control. To understand why this tactic is so damaging, we must clearly define the absolute difference between these two concepts. Control is an active attempt to dictate another person's actions, restrict their autonomy, isolate them, and exert dominance over their choices. A boundary is entirely different. A boundary is an invisible, protective line you draw around yourself to preserve your own mental and emotional well-being. Boundaries are not ultimatums, and they are certainly not punishments. They are simply you communicating the specific conditions you require to feel safe, respected, and valued in a partnership. When a man labels your reasonable boundaries as controlling behavior, he is revealing a deeply concerning aspect of his character. He is actively demonstrating that he views his absolute convenience and unrestricted freedom as vastly more important than your peace of mind. By weaponizing the word control, he attempts to inflict guilt and shame onto you for having standards at all. He wants you to believe that asking for basic respect is an unacceptable infringement on his personal life. This is a deliberate, calculated tactic to train you to stop asking for what you need. The psychological toll of this dynamic is insidious and often goes unnoticed until severe damage is done. Many women internalize this harsh criticism and fall into the dangerous trap of trying to become the ultimate low-maintenance partner. Society often praises the chill girl persona, the woman who never complains and accepts whatever is given to her. To avoid being labeled as demanding or difficult, you start to shrink your needs. You swallow your discomfort and silence your intuition. You begin to accept treatment that fundamentally conflicts with your core values, all in the name of being easygoing and accommodating. You slowly abandon your authentic self to keep the peace with a man who refuses to honor your limits. Consequently, you end up in a one-sided relationship where you give everything and ask for nothing. Meanwhile, he enjoys all the benefits of your companionship, your emotional support, and your loyalty without any of the accountability. He effectively trains you to accept the absolute minimum, while masterfully convincing you that you are the one being unreasonable. A mature, emotionally evolved man operates from a completely different paradigm. He understands that boundaries are not a threat to his independence. He recognizes that healthy boundaries are actually the essential framework that allows trust and true intimacy to flourish. A good partner wants to know your limits because he genuinely wants to honor them. He understands that when you feel completely safe to express your needs without the fear of being criticized, labeled, or dismissed, you can fully relax into the relationship and show up as your most authentic self. Men who call you controlling for having boundaries are the same men who will systematically take advantage of you if you lack them. They want unrestricted access to your time and energy while providing nothing of substance in return. If you find yourself constantly lowering your standards just to avoid conflict and labels, you are in a toxic dynamic. Recognize that having personal needs does not make you difficult. It makes you human. When your boundaries are consistently met with accusations of control, do not negotiate or explain yourself. Walk away immediately. 4. I do not like labels, or its equally confusing alternative. Let us just see where this goes. Consider a very modern and incredibly common dating scenario. You are spending significant amounts of time together. He texts you every morning. You go on proper dates. He might even introduce you to his inner circle of friends. You share deep emotional intimacy, physical connection, and your valuable time. From the outside looking in, and from the way it feels in your heart, it operates exactly like a committed relationship. However, the moment you attempt to clarify where things stand or ask for a simple commitment, he pulls back and drops this exact phrase. This is the dangerous trap of the modern situationship. It is a highly effective form of emotional manipulation disguised as a casual, pressure-free approach to romance. When a man tells you he does not want labels while simultaneously acting like your dedicated boyfriend, he is actively seeking to extract all the benefits of a relationship without assuming any of the responsibility or accountability that must come with it. He wants your consistent emotional support, your unwavering loyalty, and your affection, but he wants to maintain the absolute freedom to walk away at any moment without feeling an ounce of guilt. This dynamic places you in an incredibly painful, paralyzing, and unfair position. He feeds you just enough attention and affection to keep you hooked and emotionally invested, a psychological manipulation tactic widely known as breadcrumbing. You stay because you see the immense potential of what the connection could be. You fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy, convincing yourself that because you have already invested so much time and energy, you must stay to see the return on your investment. You falsely believe that if you are just patient enough, understanding enough, or perfect enough, he will eventually realize your worth and officially commit. But by staying in this ambiguous, undefined zone, you are actively agreeing to be undervalued. You are inadvertently teaching him that your loyal presence is a permanent guarantee, even when his commitment is strictly optional. Furthermore, if you bring up your perfectly normal need for security, he can easily point back to his original disclaimer. He will quickly remind you that he told you from the very beginning that he did not want a label, masterfully making you feel like you are the one who is suddenly demanding or changing the agreed-upon rules. This specific manipulation leaves you feeling entirely responsible for your own heartbreak. It completely ignores the fact that his daily actions consistently contradict his initial words. The chronic anxiety of never truly knowing where you stand slowly and systematically erodes your self-esteem. You start to view basic commitment as a rare prize you have to earn through good behavior, rather than recognizing it as the fundamental baseline of a healthy partnership. Here is the ultimate, undeniable truth you must internalize to protect your peace. When a mature, emotionally available man recognizes your profound value, there is absolutely zero confusion. There is no ambiguity, no prolonged waiting period, and no fear of labels. A man who truly wants you will take immediate, decisive action to secure his place in your life because the mere thought of losing you to someone else is completely unacceptable to him. He moves with extreme clarity, purpose, and intention. The men who intentionally keep you in relationship limbo are not confused about what they want. They know exactly what they want, and it is to have you completely available without having to choose you fully. Ambiguity is not a sign of a complex romantic unfolding or a deep soul connection. It is a very clear and direct rejection of commitment. Do not sacrifice your emotional security and your precious time for someone who treats you as a convenient option. The moment you realize you are trapped in a situationship with a man who refuses to claim you, take your power back and walk away immediately. 5. You used to be so much more chill, or its equally devastating variation, you have changed, and not in a good way. Imagine a beautiful progression in your life. You are actively investing in your personal growth. Perhaps you started going to therapy, secured a promotion at work, began setting firmer personal boundaries, or simply stepped into a more confident, self-assured version of yourself. You are healing and evolving. Naturally, you expect the man in your life to celebrate this positive transformation and feel immense pride in the woman you are becoming. Instead, he meets your growth with cold disappointment. He weaponizes your evolution by using this exact phrase, strongly implying that the person you are today is somehow inferior or less lovable than the person you were when you first met. This phrase is arguably the most insidious and soul-crushing manipulation tactic of them all. It is explicitly designed to make you feel immense guilt for your own personal development. When a man uses your growth as a criticism, he is revealing a very dark truth about his initial attraction to you. He is openly admitting that he did not fall in love with your true potential or your authentic spirit. Instead, he fell in love with a smaller, more compliant, and more manageable version of you. In the early stages of the relationship, you might have been more accommodating, less vocal about your actual needs, or more willing to prioritize his comfort over your own. That specific dynamic made him feel incredibly safe, powerful, and entirely in control. As you grow, heal, and begin to assert your worth, that comfortable power dynamic is completely disrupted. Rather than stepping up, doing his own internal work, and growing alongside you, he feels deeply threatened by your expansion. His fragile ego simply cannot handle a woman who no longer needs to rely on his constant validation. The psychological damage inflicted by this specific phrase is profound because it directly targets your deepest human desire to be loved and accepted. It creates a severe internal emotional crisis. You begin to question if your pursuit of healing and self-improvement is actually a selfish act that is actively destroying your relationship. You start to wonder if becoming your most authentic self is truly worth the agonizing risk of losing his love. Tragically, many women yield to this relentless pressure. They abandon their ambitious career goals, stop reading their self-help books, cancel their therapy sessions, and completely drop their hard-earned boundaries. They actively choose to shrink themselves back down to a size that feels safe and comfortable for their ego. They sacrifice their own vibrant evolution, dimming their internal light, just to keep a man who only values them when they are easily controlled. This is a devastating betrayal of the self. You must understand this reality at the deepest possible level. A man who truly loves you does not just tolerate your personal growth. He actively champions it. A healthy, emotionally mature partner is excited to witness your continuous evolution. He feels a profound sense of pride when he sees you stepping into your power, becoming more confident, and aligning with your true life purpose. He fundamentally understands that your expansion does not threaten the relationship. Instead, it significantly enriches the connection, bringing a more vibrant, authentic, and fulfilled partner to the table. True love is an expansive force, never a restrictive one. It creates a nurturing environment where both individuals are continuously encouraged to flourish. When a man criticizes you for changing for the better, he is essentially demanding that you stunt your own healing journey to accommodate his deep-seated insecurities. He is asking you to stay broken so he can feel whole. This is not love. This is mere possession. You are meant to evolve, to heal, and to expand into the absolute best version of yourself. If a man ever demands that you stay small just so he can feel big, choose your own brilliant future, and walk away immediately. Now that you understand the psychological mechanisms behind these 5 phrases, it is essential to reframe how you view relationships and your own boundaries. The purpose of analyzing these manipulation tactics is not to make you cynical about love or constantly suspicious of every man you encounter. The ultimate goal is to equip you with the psychological discernment necessary to distinguish between a partner who genuinely cares for your well-being and a manipulator who is only focused on what he can extract from you. Setting strict boundaries and recognizing these verbal red flags does not mean you are building walls to keep love out. Instead, you are building a highly effective filtration system. Healthy boundaries act as a gate that allows genuine, supportive love to enter while permanently keeping emotional predators on the outside. A man of high character will never use these 5 phrases against you. He will not invalidate your emotions, weaponize his honesty, label your standards as controlling, trap you in a situationship, or shame you for your personal growth. An emotionally secure man will celebrate your evolution because he understands that a strong, self-assured partner only enhances the relationship. You must internalize one final, critical truth. You are not responsible for healing the men who hurt you. It is not your job to teach a grown adult how to communicate with basic human respect. It is not your duty to love someone so hard that they magically transform into a better, more evolved version of themselves. Your only true responsibility is to protect your own energy, honor your authentic needs, and create a life that fundamentally aligns with your highest values. Walking away from a toxic dynamic is never an act of cruelty or failure. It is the absolute highest form of self-preservation and self-love. Every single day you spend trying to convince the wrong man to treat you properly is a day you are completely unavailable for the right man who would never dream of treating you poorly. The love, security, and respect you are searching for absolutely exist in this world. However, it can only find you when you finally stop settling for less than you deserve. Your intuition is your strongest asset. If a relationship consistently leaves you feeling drained, confused, or questioning your own worth, listen to that internal alarm. Do not stick around to analyze his potential or fix his broken pieces. When you hear any of these 5 phrases, trust your gut, choose your own peace, and walk away immediately.